Today on Locked On Flames, we have your primer for the Final Five.
Your Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Locked On Flames. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, today we are going to kind of explain and break down the numbers and math and all the fancy things ahead of the final 5 games of the Flames regular season. Nick, how are you?
I'm good. You know, the typical Monday afternoon tired is hitting. I could definitely use a sip of coffee. Dinner would be nice, but what business to take care of first.
Yes, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. It's always a good time to jump on board the Flames potential bandwagon here. And thank you all for hanging out with us as well. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, and we are free and available on YouTube as well. And we're just going to dive right in. I think March was such a fun month for this team. There were definitely some eye-opening moments.
What was the really bad NHL marketing campaign? No soap operas, just hockey? No, it's been a soap opera.
Yeah.
It legitimately has been a soap opera for the last few weeks. You got new characters coming in out of nowhere who are getting dropped in across the country. Who is that handsome young man? What is he doing here?
Exactly.
The NHL is entirely a soap opera, and that was a missed opportunity and a very, very easy marketing campaign. Don't they know, like, the third best player in all of baseball reads hockey romance novels? Lean into the bit.
I can't believe that wasn't an April Fool's joke.
I was like, it's 9 a.m. April Fool's Day. There's no way this is real. There's no way. And then I clicked on the link, and it was very much real.
Oh, good old Bryce Harper. But, I don't know. I feel like March really was kind of the true turning point. I think that they might have finally turned that corner. I don't want to speak too soon.
I think that's also – I think that's the content part of your brain that's like, well, they're not miserable to talk about now, and we're having fun. So I think this is the most – I'm trying to think of the right word to describe it, because it's not focused. It's not like – it's not attentive. This is the most we've been saying all year that they've been adrift, that they haven't had a sense of direction. I don't know if they're heading in the exact right direction yet, but they're getting closer. Like, maybe they finally figured out the compass was pointing west instead of north, and they were able to realign it and get the right bearing. They're still probably not making it. Most of them, I have them down here, 21%, 29%, 37%, 28% chance to make the playoffs. Those are the 4 publicly available models. So it's not
zero. It's
not zero, and it's gone up. It was down in the teens on pretty much all of them last week. Mm-hmm. But the wins over the weekends, the come from behind wins, those made a real difference. Every game is of the utmost importance now, especially now that there's only 5 left.
Yeah, I think it's just been such a wild ride of a season that, I'm worried that we're running out of time. It's very, very much like that 56-game season where the Canucks were like red hot, fighting for that playoff spot, I think, for Montreal and the Flames. And Vancouver just they really did run out of time.
Yeah. It's been a very turbulent season for Calgary. That's the way I would describe it, where it's been up and down, erratic, not a lot of consistency. I mean, that you said it the other day. They hadn't won 3 games in a row since December. So it really speaks to just how weird this entire season's been. I mean, excuse me, you've had a lot of turnover and a lot of change. Yeah. And, even for guys who've been in the league a long time, like Kadri, like Huberdeau, like even Uyghur, you go to a new team, it takes a while to resettle your entire life. I mean, we take it for granted that most guys are able to do it pretty seamlessly and figure it out. And Calgary is just so unique in the fact that they had such significant players get replaced that it was always never going to go as smoothly as they thought it would. Thought it was probably going to go smoother than this because it's been so bumpy and turbulent. Like maybe the Flames are flying Spirit, but it's been a mess so far. It's been an up and down mess, but it's not over yet. It's not over yet.
It's not. And last night, after Lucic, or I guess technically Sunday night, when Lucic scored, Money Puck tweeted that that goal alone increased their playoff chances by 6%.
Yeah.
And, I know we talk about Money Puck just, valuing Corsi more than the other models, but thank you, you big Neanderthal, for something.
Hey, it's one of those things where you kind of you're thinking to yourself like, why is he playing? And then you're like, no, and then he actually lets it rip and it actually goes in, and then you just stop complaining for that half second, like the irrational fear of a child running around. Like, what are you doing? What do you got over there? Do you have the puck, Milan? Get rid of that. You're not supposed to have that. It's like talking to a child, but every now and then they do something genuinely hysterical where you're like, he probably shouldn't get used to doing that because the overconfidence of it is a problem. But in that moment, it was a relief. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, it's like when he had goals in back-to-back games and everyone was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And he just reminds me of like that vine of the child when the mom's like, what do you have? And it's like, a knife. It's
yeah.
Like, no.
That's Lucic with the puck. Yeah.
Nope. And, I definitely think that I think he's retiring after this season. I think that seed has been planted in his brain since he talked about it a few years ago, right before Jeff Ward kind of quote unquote rejuvenated and revitalized him. But I don't know. I don't think he's completely useless, but he's more so of a liability.
That's the thing with the guys who bring more intangibles than the tangible. It's very hard to quantify what somebody brings when it's not based on actual production. Like, you could be the best guy on the planet. Everybody in the room loves you. You're hosting people at your house for dinner. You organize the get-togethers, all of that stuff. That's great. Every team needs the guy to facilitate that. Every friend group needs the facilitator to organize the plans. But there's a salary cap, and you can't be paying guys who are good at logistics. You can hire somebody to do that, and that won't be on the salary cap. You can hire a director of player morale, and they can be, we have this team bonding exercise once a month. We have team dinner once a week. All of those kinds of things where it's great. One guy wants to take the initiative and do it because he's older. He's made a lot of money. He knows that it's part of the experience. The responsibility of being a veteran is you teach the younger guys, hey, you look after the other guys on your team. When you finally get paid, you take care of the younger guys who aren't making as much money as you. That stuff all matters. It has a value. It does not have a value commensurate with the salary cap hit that Lucic has, and it's why you can't prioritize intangibles over tangibles in a salary cap sport. In baseball, sure, go nuts. In basketball, where the salary cap is made up, sure, go nuts. In football, where the salary cap is $220 million, sure, go nuts. But in the NHL, where the salary cap is $82.5 million, you can't have somebody getting paid almost $6 million a year because they have good vibes. You just can't.
No, and that's, when you carve out a role and you create a fake job title for them and probably them and their wife to just
like if they bring Lucic back on the veteran minimum of like $750, sure, whatever, that's fine. But if he wants more than that, you tell him thanks for what you did here, but we got to build a team. We need that money.
Yeah, exactly. And just like the Flames need to preserve their money, you also need to save money. And here is a word from our next sponsor, who I know I will be utilizing this summer because it is concert season, and buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't feel like you're going to battle. And that's why you should use Game Time, because Game Time makes it a lot easier, and you get killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. So you can stop stressing over the tickets and get hype for all the fun you'll have thanks to Game Time. I know that I will probably be buying last-minute Taylor Swift tickets because I have zero self-control, and I'm so excited to use Game Time for this, as well as Bruins playoff tickets, and their flash deals make it very easy to obtain these tickets. And right now, you can snag tickets without the stress at Game Time. All you have to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I will be using that. Thank you very much, Game Time.
I am an experiences person, so yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need material things. I'd rather go do things.
Exactly. I think that that's, part of the joy of being a sports fan, or just, really a human being.
Yeah.
Is making those memories at events. And shout out to Game Time, and not another main ticket supplier that has many of us in the trenches fighting for our lives, like the Flames.
Correct.
Like
the Flames are fighting for I assumed when they went down on Saturday they were losing that game to the Canucks. Yesterday, I assumed they were losing that game when Sunday night. I assumed they were losing that game when they went down. And that's the first real resiliency they've shown all year. It would have been nice if it showed up, at some point in the previous 75 games. But there's no time like the present. There is no time like the present to get it going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel like the first period of Sunday's game against the Ducks was just a disaster.
Yeah.
They didn't look like they wanted to play. They didn't know that they were playing. I think, at one point the camera kind of panned to Daryl during a line change, and he's over there with his paper and his hands going let's go. Come on, you got put a little life into it. And it's so frustrating, watching that first shot go in, and then Markstrom's just kind of doing Markstrom things. And I was shocked. I was a little shocked when Dan Vladar was in net, but I'm not saying in Sutter we trust, but let's just trust the process.
Hey, if you're on the mat, you're willing to do anything to get off of it. You'll try anything if you're about to die. I mean, at that point, there's nothing else. You got nothing to lose. If you're going to lose the game, you might as well go down saying, all right, I did everything I could. And that's what you do there, pulling the goalie down 2-0. Switching goalies down 2-0 like they did against the Ducks. You had to find a way to get back in that game. You switch the goalies. That usually gets a little bit of a jump in your guys. Hey, we played really bad in front of the first guy. Let's not do it again. Let's not embarrass this guy too. And they didn't play great. I mean, it's not great that you only won 5-4 against the Connor Bedard-bound team like the Ducks, but you won. Style points aren't a thing in the NHL. We're not in the BCS system where you need to win by a certain score so you get picked for a bowl game. But you won. Baby steps. You won 2 in a row at a crucial stretch of the season here. You got 5 to go. The math that we're going to talk about, it's not impossible, but it's definitely challenging. But they do have some things going for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was looking at some of the stats ahead of this. And Tyler Toffoli really has been just
he's been their best player.
He has been the spine of this team. And, you're better with the numbers than I am because I'm just not a numbers girl, more of a vibes girl. But what's the telltale stat right now?
For Toffoli specifically, I mean, he's 4th in the entire league in goals above replacement, which, that out of every player in the league, forward and defense, he's top 10. He might have slipped down over the course of the weekend, but he was 6 or 7 at one point during the week last week, and he was 8th the week before that when I did an entire episode about that. But he's the one guy who's a shoot first guy. Everybody else is a facilitator, and he's inclined to let it rip, and he's got decent shooting talent. So that's a real marriage of situational awareness and talent where everything kind of lines up for him. We've bemoaned the Flames' lack of finishers all season, but he's the one guy they have whose best trait is his shooting. So he's been able to capitalize on that. That would really be the biggest thing in terms of Toffoli, is just he's been able to capitalize on the way the team plays, and they don't have any other finishers. He's the one guy who will just shoot.
Yeah, no, there were absolutely points in the game against the Ducks where I was like, a wraparound goal would have been completed had they just had someone right there. But they didn't, because he's off chewing his mouth guard in much warmer climate. What does it look like for the Flames as a whole right now? Just
Okay.
I know they're 2 points out of a wild card spot.
Okay. So Seattle is in the first wild card position. They have 90 standings points. Winnipeg is in the second one with 89. Calgary, 87. They are the first team out. Seattle has 2 games in hand on Winnipeg and Calgary. So Seattle seems relatively safe ahead of Winnipeg because they have 2 more games to make up. Winnipeg has played the exact same number of games as Calgary. Winnipeg, 578 points percentage. Calgary, 565 points percentage. So based on how they've played to this point, the projections will be the Jets finishing with 92 points, Calgary finishing with 90. If the Flames want to beat that projection and the Jets play to what they've been this season and they finish with 92, the Flames would need to win 4 of the last 5 games. They would need 8 standings points to finish with more than 92. And the Jets could finish with less than 92, and if they finish with more than 92, you're probably not getting in. So that's what it looks like for the Flames. They've got 5 games remaining. They probably need to win 4 of them to give themselves a real chance to make the playoffs. Their final 5 games, they play Chicago, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Nashville, San Jose. There are 4 winnable games there. But the problem is, if they lose to Winnipeg head-to-head, this is almost all moot. That's the thing. The Flames, even if they win 4 of the 5, but the 1 loss is in the game to Winnipeg, you're still probably finishing 2 points behind Winnipeg, because that's effectively a 4-point game. Because if you win 2, Winnipeg doesn't get 2. But if you lose to Winnipeg, they get 2, you don't get 2. Then your math becomes a lot harder. Then it's a 4-point gap. Even if you win the other 4, you got to worry about those 4 too. That 4-point swing of the Winnipeg game head to head. And that's going to be the biggest game they have. That's the single most. Like, granted, they have to play well against Chicago. They didn't do that the first time they played head to head. They need to find a way to just take care of business. No turbulence.
No.
Smooth.
You're flying
sailing
here. You're not flying Spirit or Frontier. You're flying JetBlue. Just sail home. It's fine. You can do it. It's a direct flight. I don't know. That scares me. This team scares me. They keep me on the edge of my seat, and every game feels like a game 7.
Well, yeah, effectively it has been for like 2 weeks now, because all of these games have such massive playoff implications. I mean, Winnipeg's last 5 games, obviously they play Calgary. They're off until the Calgary game. The other problem for the Flames is the Winnipeg games are back-to-back, and they're at Winnipeg. That's a little bit tough. Nashville, San Jose, Minnesota, Colorado. Colorado probably doesn't have anything to play for. Minnesota probably doesn't have anything to play for. Calgary, obviously, everything to play for. And then Nashville and San Jose, 2 teams well out of it at this point. Granted, Nashville is only 3 points behind the Flames for that last team out. The first team out. But Nashville is effectively just riding the goaltending. And yeah, I should take a second to say UC Saros has been the best goalie in the league the second half of the season. He's up to second in goals saved above expected behind Ilya Sorokin. And then Olmark is third, I believe. Those should be the 3 Vezina finalists. I just wanted to get that in there because the Predators gave up. They waved the white flag at the deadline and traded a bunch of guys. And he's gotten better since that happened. They have a bunch of AHL guys, and they've won a bunch of games here inexplicably.
Yeah, no, Nashville has been just fun. I mean, good for
plucky.
them.
They're plucky.
Yeah, and go listen to Anne and Nick over on Locked On Predators, because they bring a lot of fun to Nash Vegas. And coming up next, we will wrap up this fun primer. And before we do that, though, I do want to tell you about Built Bar, who is, of course, just a delicious tasting protein bar that everyone needs in their life, because who doesn't love a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar? They are high in fiber, high in protein, low in calories and all the stuff that you don't want to consume too much of. They have unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. Personally, I'm a big fan of their churro flavors. I was kind of bummed I didn't see the Built Bar bracket for like March Madness this year, but that's okay. You can still head on over to built.com to place your Built Bar order if you're interested. And of course, if you are in the States and have a Walmart or Sam's Club near you, go ahead and run to the pharmacy section today to pick up your cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs, or brownie batter and churro. And you can thank me later. Head on over to built.com or Walmart or Sam's Club to get your Built Bars. And thanks everyone for hanging out with us today on Locked On Flames. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Jess Belmosto and Nick Zararis. This team, like, you can't write them off. You can't write them off.
It's inexplicable. It really is inexplicable. And like, yeah, the Jets did them a massive favor the last few weeks by being pretty mid and keeping them alive. But, you know, those two games over the weekend, they showed you something. They weren't against good teams in Vancouver and Anaheim, but they showed you something. They showed you just enough that you could delude yourself into thinking maybe they can do this. Maybe they can win 4 out of 5. That's the thing. Each of those games, on its own right, you know, there are no easy games in the NHL, even against the bad teams like Chicago, the teams like Nashville, who are just AHL guys and a few guys hanging on there, and teams like Colorado and Minnesota, who are pretty much locked into their playoff spots and don't really have a whole lot to play for, but are talented regardless. There are no easy games in the NHL. You got to find a way to win 4 out of the 5 of them to be even moderately confident. Oh, and you have to beat the team that's directly in front of you in one of those 4 games you win.
Yeah, no, the Devils couldn't figure it out last night, or Sunday night rather, and lost 6-1. So again, yeah, it's just not a good time. It was not fun to keep track of that score on top of the Flames being down 20 minutes into that game. So it was just kind of like okay, well, maybe the vibes are off. But you know, I mean, to be fair, it was the second game of back-to-back for the Devils, and you do have to travel to Winnipeg from Chicago, so, you know, not fun. But just I need that. I need the Flames to do something to help themselves.
So I know I said the matchups who each team has left in their final 5 games, but this is like the concise way to say it. Calgary has the weakest strength of schedule of any teams left. They play the 5 easiest games of any team left. The Jets play the 17th easiest schedule of anyone left. That's the concise way of saying this is not going to be easy, and the matchups look favorable for things to break the Flames' way, but it's still going to take a lot to go their way. That's why, you know, you're cautiously optimistic. You say you take care of your game against Chicago, we'll worry about Winnipeg on Wednesday, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the biggest thing is you can't allow yourself.
You can't look ahead. And they've done that more than once. They've done that more than once against these stinky teams. There was that game against the Ducks on the Friday night at the start of March. That layup, legitimately a layup. All you had to do was go in there and take care of business, and they lost, I think, 4-1. They didn't show up for that game. And then they went to LA and they got killed in LA on the following day. It's been very complicated for the Flames this season to find consistency, to find good results over an extended period of time. They've got 2 good wins in a row. Good in the sense that they came from behind to win, not necessarily that they played particularly well in either game, because they didn't. They didn't. The Canucks and the Ducks are not good teams. No. But they found the way. They're still alive. You worry about your game against Chicago, and you go from there.
Right. I think that's you just have to look at it one game at a time, and that's the mentality that you have to take until game 82. And we've said this for the last month. They're not going to tell you if they're making the playoffs or not until game 82.
More than likely, yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, we did have a debate about it. before the trade deadline, I think.
Yes, at the start of February. That was a while ago.
That time is not real. But, you do have to just think, like, can this team get hot? I mean, get hotter, I guess, and carry that momentum and the resiliency into the postseason.
That's the one thing you can talk yourself into is if they play well enough over these last 5 games that they actually get in, they'll probably be the hottest team in all of hockey going into the playoffs if they can get the 4 wins out of 5 that they desperately need. That's something you can definitely talk yourself into.
And not just because they're the Flames. They're not just hot because of that. But, oh, man. I don't know. This team, it's like a toxic relationship. I've said it time and time again. When it's good, it's good. And then when it's bad, it's bad. And then there's off days where you're like, what is this? What are we doing here? You're questioning everything.
I had multiple people text me Saturday night during the game and be like, how do you watch the Flames every game? They are atrocious. I had 3 separate people text me that during the course of the game Saturday night. And I was like, you're not wrong. They're not exactly the 1980 Soviet Union when it comes to like their mechanics of hockey. They are not crisp. They are not enjoyable to watch, but they're plucky. They're the runt of the litter right now. They are trying to not die. That's the goal.
Yeah. They're the underdogs that they like talked themselves into being last year.
But they actually are underdogs now.
Yeah. And now, they really do have to just leave it all out there every game until the numbers don't work for them anymore. But yeah, we're going to be back Wednesday, of course, to talk more about the wonderful game, the most meaningful game of the season against the Winnipeg Jets. But thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us today. As always, it is a pleasure. And make sure you are following Locked On Flames wherever you're getting your podcasts. Make sure you're subscribed and have
leave a 5-star review.
Yes. Maybe over the summer or something, we'll do a nice little giveaway. Just like Milan Lucic, thinking he's Oprah with the puck on his stick. But make sure you're following us. Be nice. Leave 5-star reviews. Some nice little reviews, too, and not just ratings. And we will catch you tomorrow. And hopefully the Flames can muster up some good hockey and beating, again, like the 32nd worst team in the league.